how did you get into sales? Like tell the audience that, man. Like how did you get into sales, your background and stuff like that?
Yeah. This is kind of an interesting, I guess, background story, and I usually tell it a couple of different ways. The first way is people will say, what do your parents do? And I tell people that my father's a minister, and they'll go, oh gosh, you really did, you took a total different path than him. And I'd go like, well, did I? I mean, my dad's in sales, right? He is ultimately a fisher of men, right? And so in that sense, it's not that different. But when I started sales, me and some friends moved down to Austin a summer between junior and senior year, and we wanted to play music down there, and so we were able to find an apartment. One of the friends that I was there, was four of us. One of them, he was 18, so he was able to get us an apartment, and we all kind of just started looking for work. And I found a card in the apartment that we moved into. Go apply making cold calls down the street. So I went to this building, and it was basically calling for the Fraternal Order of Police, which is like a fundraising arm of the police where you sell people a sticker. It's like a badge, a silver, bronze, or a gold sticker, and they're different like memberships. And they coached you to speak in different accents based on the territory you were calling. And so it seemed like really fun to me, calling like Oklahoma versus Texas and putting on a different kind of accent, right? And so I did that for the summer that I was down there. And so that's technically the first time I ever did sales, and it was my first job that wasn't like in a restaurant, right? And then fast forward, I ended up working with a friend of mine when I lived in Canada, in Toronto. We commute out on the train out of Toronto, a little town called Oshawa. It's like a automotive town, and I worked there, cold calling and selling basically a product that was free. Like I was selling this energy audit. So basically, the company I worked for was Subpar Blue Bay, and we went to all our commercial customers, and we would do an audit for free, see what their lighting was, and then we'd replace up to $1,000 worth of their lighting with energy efficient lighting. And so it was one of the most challenging sales I've ever had, because I wasn't selling anything. I was giving away something for free. And so if you want to see skeptics, you don't know skeptics. Okay, everyone in sales is like, oh yeah, no, I get pushback. You don't get pushback. I'm giving away something for free. You should see the pushback that people were giving me. People would hang up. They'd threaten me. Just be like, how dare you try and scam me? And I would have to try and pivot and justify it. But I would be very persistent. And I realized, like, what I realized in that moment was, gosh, okay, I'm selling something that I believe in. And not only do I believe in what the product does, which is, it lowers energy consumption, right? It's like a net positive for the world, but also affects positively the person that I'm talking to and trying to get to be part of this program. My customer, essentially. It benefited them, right? It benefited everyone. And so that made me really mission driven to go, essentially what I needed to do was very easy. Who's the owner or the manager? I get them on the phone. I explain that, I work on behalf of the province. This is a program that will change out your lights, $1,000 worth to energy efficient. It's free. You'll save money. It's good for the environment. That was my pitch. And it was, once I could get through to somebody, they'd go, okay, we'll send them by. And they would send somebody by. But I had times where somebody would call and say, no, we don't want any. And I could tell it wasn't the owner of the business. And I would call back. I called this law office once, and this secretary was doing an amazing job at being a gatekeeper and protecting the time of her boss. I do not fault her one bit. But when I called, she kept hanging up on me, and I kept calling back, because I can't take a no from somebody who doesn't have the authority to say no. That's a big thing I also learned in sales. Is a lot of people have the authority to say no, but they don't have the authority to say yes. So learning who the authority, who can say yes, that was really important. So I finally called in, and the owner, the lawyer at the firm answered. He's like, "Listen, what are you doing? You keep calling. Stop harassing us. He said we don't want." And I was like, "Well, I'm part of a program that is offering free energy efficient lighting. It's on behalf of the province, and it's just I need to speak to the owner because it's up to you to say yes to it or to say no to it." And he was like, "I think okay. So in the front we have probably 4," and I was like, "All right." He just started like being okay. I got lights here. I got lights in the office, and he started explaining to me where the lights were. And I'm like, "I'll send somebody out." And we switched to $1,000 worth of lighting, right? But I had to be persistent in a way that was really mission driven, and that was a big thing to learn for me as a part of that. So I learned a ton from that, but I didn't go away from that feeling like I was a salesperson. And even when I did when I was in my teens, I didn't feel like I was really being a salesperson. I didn't really think about it.
It
wasn't until
like a salesperson if it feels like the swindle or you don't believe in the product.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? And I don't know. The working for the Fraternal Order of Police, I definitely didn't feel good about it. But being able to give people free, energy efficient, lighting and appliances or whatever, that makes a difference. So I was like, okay, I'm like providing a service here, and it was good. It was good. But I didn't really get into sales until I worked at a startup, and a friend of mine just had posted on Facebook, of all places, hey, does any friends have any cold calling experience? I work at this startup and we're looking for somebody. And I kind of knew him, and I messaged him. He's like, "Oh yeah, come on in." And I got the job, and that's when I was an SDR, and I was prospecting, and it was at a company called Lookbook HQ. They're now Path Factory. They're an amazing sort of content, content engagement platform, and super smart leaders there, and the founders Nick Edward and Mark Opowski are fantastic, so smart, and that's when I got a real sense of what sales means to an organization, sort of top down, right? Where the sales function fits into the greater success of the company. Because when you're in a small startup and then you start to see it grow, you can see the fruits of the labor, and you can see the org chart, because it's not that big of an org chart, right? And that's what kind of got me excited about the path of sales. Was really like that formalized experience where I thought to myself, I can do this, and now I know why I do it and what it means for the greater sort of success of the company. But it was always a conversation there. It was always a conversation between everyone. It was always a free flow and exchange of ideas. It was something that I think I've still always kind of chased that first great startup experience that really kind of made an impression on me, and in some sense sort of ruined me for other companies, because it was really that opportunity to be around super smart, super open, very forward thinking. When they hired the sales team, they hired it correctly. They had the scale to be able to implement new sales. They didn't just hire salespeople as throwing money at a problem. They didn't have this delusion that founders have, where I got the company, the seed round funding. It's like, well, that's a founder. Everyone knows they're dealing with the founder when they do that. They invest in you. You didn't do it because you have this incredible sales acumen. You did it despite your lack of sales acumen, right?
Yeah.
And so, so he didn't. That company, those guys, they didn't do that. They built it out really well. They built out marketing all at the same time, and it was a really well thought out execution on things, and it made a big impact on kind of what I view as the right kind of organization to work with. So